Welcome to the Rising Tide LinkedIn Live on LinkedIn. This is the Rising Tide community. We meet every Wednesday, every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Usually we start promptly at 10 a.m., but today we had a little bit of technical difficulties. That's okay, because we are persistent and consistent. We're going to figure these things out. Thank you guys for being here every Wednesday, every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. London time. Today we're going to be talking about business or work podcasts. Where do you consume content? Do you have shows that we should be listening to? Are there episodes that made an impact on you that helped move your business, your career forward? That's what we want to talk about. We also want to meet the community. So we're going to do quick introductions, 60 seconds. Who are you and what are you working on a Friday, and where in the world are you? Gavin, go ahead, get us started.
Yeah, I'm Gavin Kinzel, podcast producer for Cali BBQ Media in Orange County, California. Today, I'm working on more social media posts and strategies for the external clients here at Cali BBQ. And I'm excited for today's topic. There's 4 million podcasts in the world, and hopefully we all have a different one to talk about.
Amazing. I didn't know we reached 4 million. That's good news. Great news. Elizabeth Doss, go for it.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Elizabeth Doss here. I am from Greenville, South Carolina, but currently in Indianapolis, Indiana, helping some friends. We are hosting an event this weekend, about 250 people coming from all over the country for a spiritual retreat, and it's going to be awesome. And so it's fun to see people I haven't seen in a long time from all over. But my main business is I am a motion graphic designer. I create animated GIFs for businesses to leverage that corner of the internet to interact with their communities in fun and unexpected ways. I'll hand it back to you, Sean.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Michael, Mike is yours. Go for it.
Thank you. Yeah, Mike Biseglia, producer, Cali BBQ Media. I'm in Middletown, New Jersey, about an hour south of New York City, working on right now some digital content for digital hospitality that will be getting out later today and early next week as well. I'm looking forward to this topic as podcasts consume my life, working and consuming. So a lot to say about it.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Mike. Jason Berkowitz, the patient Jason. Patient.
Hello.
Hello.
Jason David Berkowitz. Sean Philip Walsh. So we are Jason, longtime restaurant operator and partner, founder of Arrow Up Training. We help restaurants satisfy compliance while developing supervisors into leaders. And I'm calling in from Los Angeles, California. And today, helping on a business venture that my family was a part of globally, of which case I'm going to have to pop off for a little bit and pop back in. So you will see me coming in and out a little bit, but I'm excited to hear some suggestions and talk stories of podcasts.
Awesome. We will definitely want to hear your opinion and your recommendation. So if you need to pop in or raise your hand to get your thoughts in, just let us know. Thank you. Stover, what's up?
Hey, everyone. My name is Stover, producer with Cali BBQ Media. I haven't listened to a podcast other than ones that I've worked on, I think in like 8 years. So I'm really excited to hear some new advice, because that used to be one of my favorite things to do, was listen to podcasts before I had kids. And then what ended up happening is my ear time got taken up by the children, yes, and also work. And so I do think I need to find some time to carve out listening time for daddy. And so this would be really nice. I'm going to pass it on.
Awesome. Thanks, Stover. Eric Farrell, go for it.
Hey guys, I am Eric Farrell, owner of thewordkitchen.com, ghostwriter for the hospitality industry. I write so you can keep on cooking, because that's what you need to be doing, not me. What am I working on today? Man, I got too much stuff. I'm behind on a whole stack of posts, and it's a beautiful Friday, and I just want to be outside, but I'd rather be in here talking to you guys.
We're grateful that you're here. Thanks for being here. Dean LeBay, Dynamo Dean, go for it.
Dean LeBay, LA capital BAY. I'm calling in from where listening in from New Orleans. I'm a retired paperclip salesman and currently in the restaurant equipment business. Pretty much the same thing. Everybody has stuff that they need, so that's what I do. I'm a salesman by trade. Thanks.
I love the paperclip salesman, Dean. It's like the most fascinating thing ever. Scott Turner, what's up, Scott? Scott, are you with us? The other side of the pond.
Hey everybody, yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you for finding us.
I'm
It
actually
wasn't easy
a
this
little
morning.
bit further. I'm actually a little bit further. Which way am I going? East. I'm in Amsterdam today. We're doing a restaurant opening over the weekend, so we're adding another country to the rising tide. But hi everyone, I'm Scott Turner. I am the founder of Odin Hospitality. We are rewriting the rules of Hotel F&B because we believe that every hotel should have exciting food and beverage and not boring soulless venues. As I mentioned, we're in Amsterdam. This weekend, we're opening a restaurant concept in the Doubletree by Hilton, which is going to be quite cool. So yeah, we're going to try and grab a bit of content and get that online. So that's what we're working on at the minute.
Brilliant. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you checking in from Amsterdam. Michael Ungaro. Mike is yours. Go for it.
What is happening, everybody? Mike Ungaro here. I am currently in my home, my backyard today, and right on the Orange County, LA County border, Los Alamitos. I am the CEO, visionary co-owner of San Pedro Fish Market. We have 3 locations in addition to our web series currently streaming on Amazon Prime called Kings of Fish. Thank you all for your support on that. And I'm going to stop there so we can keep moving on. I can't wait to get to the podcast section here.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Grateful that you're here, man. Mercedes, welcome. Go for it.
Hey everyone, Mercedes coming at you from sunny San Diego, the Director of Sales and Events for the Wood Group and also VP of Education and Programs for HSMAI. Looking forward to this conversation considering I do a Saturday skate every weekend with podcasts in my ears, so it should be a fun time.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mercedes. And Will, we see you down below. Simon, we see you. James, thank you for recording. If you guys want to join us on stage, we'd love to have your perspective. I know both podcasters down below, so we'd love to have. I always love to hear who other podcasters listen to, what content they consume, what they think is valuable content. But my name's Sean. We do podcasts. We do a lot of podcasts. We have a media company, Cali Barbecue Media. We not only produce our own shows, we produce shows for other restaurant groups and technology companies in the food business space. Typically, we're making B2B content, so not shows that are consumed by just your regular food TV consumer, but mostly for shows for people that care about building great businesses, sustainable businesses. For me, podcasts that I love, great topic because we live, breathe, eat podcasts every single day. I think the first podcast that I fell in love with were the Tim Ferriss Show. And when Gary Vee started his audio experience, those were 2 top of mind podcasts that I actually started consuming. I think I've always been a huge sports radio fan. So it's funny. I remember having a conversation with one of my closest friends. He was in my wedding. His name is Joey. And we were in high school. And I was telling him, for some reason, we were talking about radio. And this is obviously FM radio. And I was talking about listening to music. You know, we had CD players and playing different CDs in the car. And what kind of music do we listen to? And I remember him telling me, like, what do you mean you don't listen to sports radio? It's like, what are you talking about? And he basically opened up my ears to talk radio, to things, people talking about the Chargers or the Padres, in my case being in San Diego, and then some national topics, eventually fantasy football, but became a huge fan of sports radio locally here in San Diego, Southern California. But it wasn't until, I don't know, 2016, 2017, when I started consuming podcasts. And thinking of technology, the technology was much easier for me in my car to listen to podcasts. Having an iPhone, having a connected phone, having Bluetooth capabilities, it has only become easier and easier to consume content while driving, consume content while walking, even consume content when you're here in my studio now on a LinkedIn live call that is getting repurposed for a digital hospitality podcast feed. So if you're listening, we appreciate you listening. We would love to hear your story. This is an amazing community of people all over the globe. We want you to be a part of this community. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear about the podcast that you listen to. We're grateful that you listen to Digital Hospitality, that you listen to these Rising Tide calls. But yeah, if I were to break it down, those would be the two that I started with. What do I consume the most of now, outside of the shows that we do? The content that I would consume the most is probably Alex Hermosi. I am a huge fan of the work that his entire team is doing, not just for their podcast specifically. They just started doing Spotify video for their podcast, which our team is working on for our shows and our client shows. But he's also doing audio first content. So it's just him sitting at a table. Even though there is a video of him sitting at a table, he is focused on audio first. I remember doing our Behind the Smoke. The first thing that we did when we were podcasters, it was an audio only show. We didn't add video until 50 episodes in, and now obviously we tell everybody that you have to have video because video gives you short clips that you can use on different platforms, short form content, long form content. But huge fan of the Alex Hermosi show. Also Chris Do. I know I've mentioned both Alex and Chris in these calls before, but if those are the two, and then if you want to get restaurant specific, our team, Stover, myself, we worked with the Toast content team at the start of the year to go through restaurant specific podcasts. So we asked other podcasters in the restaurant space, what podcasts do they listen to get a list of 35 podcasts in the restaurant industry space. So if you want that list, you can just Google top restaurant podcasts. Most likely Toast's article will come up, and there are 35 shows with some of the people that are on these calls. And we can't wait to update that list next year because we know a lot of people in this community have launched podcasts. One of the requirements is that it had to have at least 10 episodes and they had to consistently publish. So no seasonal, had to be a commitment to the craft of podcasting. And that's a great resource if you're looking for restaurant specific podcasts. I will kick it over to Gavin. Go for it.
Cool. I've been, let's see, I decided in college that I wanted to pursue a career in radio because in 2008, that's all there was basically. Wasn't really podcasts yet. So the reason I chose that was because just like Sean, I listen to a lot of sports radio. And I remember writing a paper about the reason AM radio will always exist is because people want to have a voice and callers want to be able to call in and share their opinion. So I was essentially explaining Twitter in an audio medium before Twitter even existed. Um, so that brings me to podcasts. So obviously radio's a dinosaur now, and podcasting, everything went digital. I was already working for iHeart Media, which was Clear Channel back then. So working in the radio space, but the first podcast I listened to, actual fully only a podcast, was Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast. He's a comedian, terrific podcast. It's just him just rambling for an hour. To this day, most of the podcasts I listen to are either sports related or comedy. Um, but when it comes to anything career related or work related, I'll shout out a couple. The All In podcast, which is great. It's basically four billionaires talking about everything in the economy going on, politics, anything like that, anything stock market. A lot of things happen in the world, and I don't fully understand what it actually means. And to hear their different perspectives on what this will actually do, what's causing inflation, stuff like that, it's really interesting. So All In podcast is great, and then the other one I listen to a lot is called Prof G with Scott Galloway, and I think he's like a college professor, lecturer. But what I like about his podcast is he'll just take questions from listeners, and it's only 20 minutes long, which, as Stover said, I'm a dad as well. I don't have nearly as much time, especially working from home, to listen to podcasts. So the fact he uh, has them down to 20 minutes long. I mean, listen to this title the other day from one of his episodes was "What impacts will AI have on hiring? What to do if you get laid off, and being a dad." All three of those I have related to in the past year. So his podcast is just really speaking to me right now. So yeah, I think those two, and then one more, Daily Stoic with Ryan Holiday. Great lessons on philosophy and different lessons, and he also has a book called Daily Dad that I read every day. So check those out.
That's awesome. Gavin, how do you listen? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and where do you
I'm a
listen?
Spotify listener, but for years I was Apple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the video on Spotify, or you don't care? You're audio only.
I go to Spotify for the audio. I do like when there's a video attached to it. That's nice. But a lot of times, if it's a comedian's podcast or something, I will directly go to YouTube for that. It's a lot harder when you have limited amount of time to sit down and watch a video for an hour. So
Yep.
most of the podcasts are just audio only.
Awesome. Thank you. Great stuff. Elizabeth Doss.
Yeah, sure. So I am approaching it from a different aspect too, because with the work that I do, in creative thinking, etc. I'm trying to harness that creative side to bridge where people are at with, but creating animations and other things. So trying to tap into that. So one of my favorite podcasts is the Creative Pep Talk by Andy J. Pizza. And yes, that's his name, but he's an illustrator. He's worked with Nickelodeon and some other major things. He creates a new piece of artwork for every cover for each of them. So that's a lot of fun to follow that part. But he talks to different artists and creatives about their process. Like the most recent episode is The Anatomy of Storytelling by screenwriter Brian McDonald. And so he's teaching people the structure of story, and even trying to gather because he was saying, you enter in a room with people from at a corporation, and they're all going to have a different version of what the story is. And so really trying to gather those pieces and to be able to tell story well. Anyway, so it breaks down. He's written a book called Invisible Ink, I think is the name of Brian's book. But anyway, so Andy J. Pizza, Creative Pep Talk. He did a series that's actually been nominated for a Listener's Choice Award, and he's laughing because he's up against Oprah for this for this award. But he did a series of 5 or 6 episodes specifically dealing with people, helping people with ADHD and how they approach their work, and thinking from the right side out is the series, I think. But anyway, so that series within his podcast has been nominated. So anyway, that's really cool. I also wanted to throw in, I know it's not podcasts, but the other things I listen to is our library is connected to the app Hoopla, HOOPLA, and you can take your library card and enter in a PIN number, which I think is like the last 4 digits of your phone number or something. But you have access to multiple audiobooks, movies, ebooks, etc. So when somebody in this room recommends a book, I go straight to my Hoopla to see if the library carries it, and more often than not, I can check it out. And then, so you get 7 titles a month. So it's a great way for you to get that for free. Again, that's Hoopla. And my last thing is I want to shout out Scott, because a couple of months ago when we were talking, I thought he was using parts of his podcast such a fascinating way, because you were just talking about those 15, 20-minute podcasts. But he had created a podcast that is a evergreen conversation of what it's like to work with them and their business. And so when they are fostering a relationship with a new restaurant, he can share that podcast and the whole team can listen in and start to get a taste of what it's going to be like. And they loved that it's like a 15-minute thing. So it's their commute. They get this in-depth conversation before they even meet up, which I thought is a really, really interesting way. Because so Hospitality Huddles is, I think that's one part of his podcast, if not. But anyway, so I wanted to shout out Scott Turner. Back to you, Sean.
That's awesome, Elizabeth. Where do you listen to podcasts? Which platform?
I do use Apple Podcasts.
And
Yeah.
how do you discover new shows?
Sometimes they do suggest them, but honestly, like this room, I mean, I am a true crime one, so I do listen to Dateline and 2020 podcasts too. But like, so my algorithm is off. Anyway, back to you, Sean.
That's awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Michael, go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I love this conversation too, just as kind of like a podcast production geek, just sort of hearing all the questions and the ins and outs. Because similar to Gavin, I come from a sports radio community, and like Sean, like I listened to it growing up in New York, and I kind of got obsessed with it, and it wanted me to get into the sports radio field. One of the things I always felt that I didn't like about sports radio was I would say dislike, because I think that's the wrong word here, but just the constraints, maybe more like a radio thing where you can't do things the way you want to do them. And I love it. Podcasting is there's no rules. Do what you want, create content, figure out ways to promote it and be different, and you can come up with topics and do anything. So to me, that was just like, whoa, we can go that direction. And from there, kind of just reframe my brain on how I like to think about creating content. To what you were saying, Elizabeth, in reference to Scott, like, yeah, which I think is super cool to hear, using the platform in a different direction. Because I do believe that podcasting is just in its infancy and really hasn't even, taken off yet. Like you look at presidential candidates, nobody goes on radio shows. They go on podcasts because that's the platform to get your voice out for the votes you want to get. Like that's how it has changed. You don't see any candidate going on a radio show. It's find the podcast, because that's how you're going to get your message out. There is a show that it's called The Daily Motivation by Lewis Howes. And it's about 6 to 8 minute podcast. And what I really find unique about the show, one, that they're super quick and I can digest them fast, but it's sort of like mental health podcasts, but with a business twist to them. So everything kind of similar, kind of like to a lot of topics from this room, but you'll take an aspect of a mental health question, but it's kind of interwoven into your daily life with work. And I just really enjoy how it kind of hits on both notes. So you can take away kind of your work aspects, but it's some different tips and takeaways that you can do yourself. I think is a really cool concept.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mike. And where do you listen? Which health platform do you use?
Yeah, I use Apple, but I love this question. I'm really excited to hear everybody's answer. I use Apple. I kind of just been using it forever. But I'm like, so I'm always curious just how people switch from Apple to Spotify and kind of why the decision is made. But I've been stuck on Apple.
I've used Apple forever until like recently I'm like forcing myself to use Spotify. I'm fascinated with the Spotify video, to be honest with you. Very interested to see the creators using video on Spotify and how that's going to work out. But I use Spotify for music. So I guess, I don't know. It's hard to break the Apple thing, to be honest with you. It's
And I don't think a lot of people quite know yet that Spotify has video. I think it kind of surprises people. But it is there. Mm-hmm.
The other thing they have on Spotify really quick is they allow you to do timestamps. So just like on a YouTube video, you can scroll to see what they're going to talk about. You can do the same thing on Spotify.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, and I wish Troy was here today, but Troy Hooper, he told me he's one of the few people that I've heard listens to YouTube as a like he just listens to YouTube as a podcast while he drives.
He must have YouTube Premium because
exactly.
It allows you to close the app or whatever and keep it playing.
Yeah, which I'm sure more and more people will start to have. And that's probably me. I'm talking to myself. So. Stover, go for it.
When I first started listening to podcasts, it was really, really early in the podcast world. I listened to the Ricky Gervais podcast way back in the day, 2006, 2005. And for me, podcasts were just little radio shows. And in my mind, I was like, oh, it's cool. I can listen to it anytime I want. But it was really basic in my mind. It was like just radio on my iPod. And then it took a handful of years later till I really understood the power of the medium and reaching people in new ways. And that was when I was firmly in journalism and Serial came out, the true crime podcast that got people talking and really kind of revolutionized modern podcast storytelling from a journalism perspective. And that was really a game changer in my industry. And everyone wanted to have a serial and have a podcast like that. And it colored my understanding of what a podcast was, a high produced, expensive, time consuming affair that took a lot of people to make and a lot of time and broke new ground in all sorts of ways and got press. And so I was still thinking of podcasts as these big things and impossible things almost to make unless you had a giant team. And it wasn't really till I decided I wanted to learn how to do it and I started doing it that I realized, oh, you don't need to do that. You don't need to spend, 10 hours a day editing to make a podcast. You can really find a way to do this in a simpler way. And then I started listening to Sean's show around that time. And I started listening to my friend Greg's show, Barbecue Central show. And I started to see that regular people, so-called regular people, non-media professionals, were figuring out how to do this amazing form of podcasting. And I've spent so many years analyzing podcasts without listening to them, other than the ones I work on, that I feel like my understanding of the medium has completely changed, which is why I've stopped using the word podcast as much as I can. So it's hard for me to even think of podcasts because I'm always watching clips, short form clips. I'm not really seeking out the audio form anymore. And I don't know if my story is shared by anyone because, again, it was like, I wasn't on social when I was listening to a lot of podcasts, watching clips back then. I was listening to podcasts. I was listening to like Comedy Bang Bang and all these other type of comedy shows and things like that were fun. But then when like TikTok and Instagram Reels and all this stuff started popping up and all these people who were making shows started doing that video, my time was taken up. My content time was taken up by stuff that I think maybe might even be more entertaining than sitting down and listening to a podcast. So I'm just wondering if other people have moved on from podcasts in a way while still spending the same amount of time on content. And that's sort of how I'm feeling these days. I want something to prove to me why I should sit there and listen to it versus watch it.
Driving behavior, because I can tell you directly that I listen to less my space for listening to podcasts is when I'm driving.
I know, and that's what happened with me. Sorry. My old profession, I used to drive to interviews. I used to drive to places. Before kids and all that, I used to just drive for the fun of it. When I moved to Texas, I would just drive and drive and drive and try and get lost, see how long I could drive without finding something. And that is when I would listen to podcasts, and I would get so much thinking done. And now, without driving, and I'm at home, I fill up my time with smaller micro tasks. I don't have those extended stretches of listening. So I think it would be valuable to find that in a different way. I'm not going to be able to drive, but maybe say like on a walk or something.
Driveway content. Have you heard that term?
What term?
I believe it's called
You were cutting out. What term?
driveway content.
Driveway content, like when you don't want to see your family after getting home from the store and you sit on your phone in the car.
Family, but the content's so good you don't want to get out of your car.
No, I
That's less to do with your
Wow, let's unravel that one.
Oh,
more that the content's so engaging that you want to drive.
You're not hiding in the driveway. Okay.
No, you're not hiding in the driveway.
Okay.
Is that what my dad always
Good
said?
thing.
Different topic.
Good thing Stover's wife does. Stover, your wife doesn't listen back to these, right?
Oh no, she doesn't even know what I'm doing half the time.
Oh, phenomenal. Troy, did you hear me talking about you? Because I was just talking about
I did not. I just.
your YouTube podcast consumption, that you listen to YouTube as a podcasting platform, like when you drive, because you have YouTube.
I do. I do. Am I weird?
Myself, which I don't like.
I do it.
No, you're not weird. I do it too.
Okay. I like to try to catch the visuals when I can. I'll set my phone up in the dash. Sometimes I just want to look down at something they're referencing, but also I pay for YouTube.
While you're driving?
Yeah. No big deal. But my car drives itself. So more importantly, I pay for YouTube TV, so it's commercial free, interruption free, and it will go from one show to the next automatically too. So if I'm on a long drive, I don't have to find buttons, push buttons, change shows, change episodes. But also YouTube is one of the very few platforms, if you pay for it, you can navigate away from it and keep listening. So it'll play in the background while I'm on other apps. So I can check my email, text people.
You pay for YouTube Premium, not YouTube TV.
Both. Yeah, I pay for both, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, but YouTube Premium on the YouTube side of it, on the content side of it. So that's actually the main reason, is I need the ability to answer a text or send out an email or do something else while it's playing, and I don't want it to be interrupted every single time something happens. That's why I started paying for YouTube, so it allows me to continue the content play in the background.
Business or work podcasts. Give us a story or some recommendations.
Hey, Sean, you're going in and out. We're hearing like the second half of what you say.
I was just about to say, I think you're echoing.
Yeah. So was that to me? You want me to tell you the difference between a show and a podcast and what I listen to? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I only listen to 2 podcasts. I have a hard time. I guess what I find is most shows, I'm interested in the topics, not necessarily consistently the host or the type of the show. So I keep a lot of them subscribed, but then I browse through them to find the episode I'm interested in based on either the speaker, the guest, or the topic in that episode. But I do follow, I do it for him too. Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. I love that show, but I only love it for the celebrities for some reason, the people I actually know already, because I want to know more about the people I already know. Most of the topics he does I'm not interested in, but some of them are. So the full bio, life cycle, life story of people you know about or you want to know more about, that's what I'm interested in on his show. I just did start the Acquired podcast. Somebody recommended it to me. I think it's one of you people. But Acquired, again, 90% of their content I'm not interested in, but 2 hours with Howard Schultz on Starbucks, pretty interesting. So I've started that. I mostly listen to Gary Vee, his long form content. I don't really consume his short form content, short form being anything under like 20 minutes. I listen to the 20 to 60 minute stuff. Yeah, so I don't know that I really listen to podcasts, actually. I mean, I think if you say you listen to a podcast that you have subscribed and you listen to every episode of somebody, I think that's what Stover was saying. I don't know that that's really the way people consume anymore, except, my wife, who's consumed the entire life cycle of every single murder, mystery, kill, not get caught for murdering people shows that women seem to be very into. But
sometime why our wives are all looking at this stuff.
It's very terrifying. You know what it is? It's insurance. The insurance will never kill them because they know how to kill us. We don't want to be killed and they get away with it. So anyway, yeah, I mean, that's my story. At the end of the day, I think Stover was kind of going down the same road. I think most people, or at least the people I know, or myself, consume based on topic or merit of content, not necessarily blindly follow a particular host or show. I guess unless the content is really consistent in a genre of interest that, never wavers, but that's my thought.
Awesome. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound good now.
I sound good now. Okay. Michael Ungaro.
I like how you rubbed the Hooper lamp and Troy just popped out of it. I don't know how you did that. That was fun.
Isn't it good? He knows when I'm talking about him.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right.
I think he's able to predict that I come in about about halfway through the show every time now. I think he knows I'm coming in around 10:30. So
I wish Troy was here, and poof, you were there. I'm going to mention two podcasts. These were probably two of the earliest ones or first that I'd ever really listened to. One was what you started off with, Sean, around Tim Ferriss. I was a fan of his and 4 Hour Work Week. And I'll say, like, every episode I've listened to, and I don't listen religiously because just time wise, it's hard. But the ones that I've listened to, I noticed after a while that he would mention there'd either be a product he mentioned that I suddenly found myself using. I was like, well, that's pretty amazing. I didn't realize how many products I'm using because I heard him recommend them. Or there was some sort of strategy or tactic or advice that sort of altered the way I thought about my life and business and family and stuff. So that's always been impactful. The other one that was really big for me, and I hadn't thought about it till the request came out for this, it's called The Industry Standard by Barry Katz. If you don't know who he is, Barry, and somebody referred me to it because this was right when we were in the very beginnings of creating our own series, which at the time was just a sizzle reel. It was called Fishmongers. A production company produced it and was trying to sell it, and they couldn't, and they gave it to us to use. And I didn't know what to do with it. And a friend of mine's like, you should listen to this interview with this guy, Barry Katz, an industry standard. He used to manage a lot of comedic talent. He's a comedian. His background, I think he still represents Jay Moore, and they're on each other's shows a lot. And what was really cool about it is the people he was interviewing were these behind the scenes people that you probably would have never really heard of that were producing shows or writing shows. Sometimes it was well-known comedians like from SNL because he represented a lot of the SNL talent. And a lot of times it was just people you never heard of that were behind like Fox News getting into sports or, a famous movie and what it took to make it and what the behind the scenes people, the showrunners and the producers. So, and I'm not like really a starstruck Hollywood person, but I didn't know anything about that stuff. And we were with this content that was essentially a concept for a TV show about us. And it was really valuable to listen to what he was saying and who he was interviewing were the people behind Duck Dynasty. And I'm like, well, that's cool because I think the way these guys produced the original version of our show was very aligned with that. So I was able to reach out and develop a relationship with Barry, and I met with him a few times, and he gave us a lot of advice. And he was actually helping us with the project on and off, but he was also one of the people that wanted it to be a lot sleazier than I was willing to do. So we didn't go that route. But it really altered the path for me on what to do and what eventually became Kings of Fish and got to Amazon. So those are the two podcasts that I would share that really on. I don't know how to pick any other ones because I've been on a bunch of podcasts with people on this call. Could choose. You guys are all awesome. So I'm going to end it
Awesome. Hey, Mike, which platform do you listen to podcasts on?
there.
And where do you listen?
It depends. If I'm driving, it tends to be Apple.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I have a commitment to listen or do one, like I got to get this one done today, but the only time I can do it's while I'm working out in the morning, then it's typically Spotify on my TV playing video.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, Spotify on your TV, really?
Yeah, because I've got Apple TV in my garage. I've got like a 55-inch screen, so I have it inbuilt in there. I can have it playing with the video and All In is another one I've been listening to a lot that somebody mentioned.
And do they have Spotify video? Are they playing video as well?
Yeah. Sometimes it gives you the option to do audio or video through Apple TV.
There it is. Awesome.
That's really interesting to me. Like you have an Apple TV and then you like Spotify so much that you choose to use that on the Apple TV.
Yeah.
Then you're watching video on that. So it just shows you don't know how people are engaging with your content or where.
Because, and this is the weird thing, right? I use my Peloton a lot and I tend to like songs on it. So they show up on the Spotify. They're synced in with my Spotify. And so when I go there to listen to music, it shows my Peloton playlist right next to podcasts I've recently listened to, like restaurant, like yours, Sean. So I'm like, oh, I got to do that one today. So it just depends on there, but it's in front of your face and I don't have to make a decision.
That's what it is. Yeah. If it's there and you're like, that's what I want to hear, I'm going to click it. I'm not going to go somewhere else.
Yep.
Yeah. Discovery is very interesting.
Yeah.
Eric?
You're echoing again.
Wow. I thought I was going to take notes during this call and try to write down every podcast that you guys mentioned. But Sean, I'm really glad you've got that Fathom thing running. I want the notes after this because there's some stuff I need to look into.
Oh yeah, it's not working in these rooms, by the way.
Oh, awesome.
I bragged about it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, we haven't got figured out how to work yet. So anyone from Fathom, let me know how I can make that happen.
Well, Troy Hooper took, half of my answers, you chump. The YouTube thing, yeah, I definitely listen to most things on YouTube because I'm usually on
Hey,
a
Eric.
laptop.
Hey, Eric,
Yeah.
I'll give you a solution. If you're stuck and I took all of them away from you, the answer is The Pineapple Perspective, hosted by Troy Hooper, sponsored by Pepper Lunch. Every Thursday morning when you wake up in the shower, that's what you do. That's the easy answer, buddy. Like,
Well,
don't worry about what I took off your plate. Worry about what I'm putting on your plate.
Well, no, I was just going to say the pineapple perspective is my favorite, and I was dumping all the other answers I had, obviously. Diary of a CEO has been a big one for me. I don't watch it for the celebrities like Troy does, but I consume a lot of stuff related to health and nutrition, and Diary of a CEO has a ton of that has been a really, really deep dive into concepts that have been hard to find clear information on. And he always just has the most brainy people in there. I love it. I just got distracted by my wife calling me, so I lost the other thing I was going to say. Wealth Factory with Garrett Gunderson. Some of the smartest money advice I've ever heard. When I stumbled on that show, he revolutionized how I was thinking about a lot of things. I highly recommend that one. And lastly, I would say it's not really a podcast. He doesn't have a podcast of his own, but I listen to him on a million other podcasts that he's been on. Nicholas Cole is the writer that I follow the most and I'm learning the most from. So anything I can find with him on it, there's some big download for me to get that's helping me improve my writing, improve my business, improve everything about how I do what I'm trying to build here. So if you don't have a specific podcast you listen to, find your people and chase them down on every other podcast. And I stick with YouTube because it's easier, and then I don't pay for services. Come on, I've got clever ways around that. That's all I got.
That's great advice. Can you hear me now? I'm going in and out of earbuds, non-earbuds.
Yeah, you sound better.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Michael Beck. Thanks, Eric. Michael Beck, go for it. No Michael Beck. Scott
Yes,
Turner.
Michael Beck. I hit the wrong mute button. Am I good?
You're better now. You're
I'm
non-muted.
live and in person. Fantastic. Thanks. Podcasts. It's funny. I was late to the party on podcasts. My wife started talking about them, and I started actually tuning in about 3 years ago. So I feel I'm really late to the party. But I started picking them up really fast after that. I like a lot of Simon Sinek stuff, so I spend time on his was it the Bit of Optimism podcast. I like to sharpen my marketing chops. And this guy's, I think everybody probably is aware of him, Alex Ramosi. He has a podcast called The Game. Fantastic marketing and just kind of just business driver, motivational, get shit done kind of podcast. Love that. The ones I really glam to, though, outside of sharpening my edge, is the things that are going to help me be a better leader, better father, better person, better husband. The Holder and his family. I don't know if does anybody know them? Do you guys familiar with them? They do all the funny family videos on YouTube. The dad sings at Costco and does stuff like that. They do a lot of stuff about ADHD, and if anybody's followed along with some of my content, I something that I live with and enjoy, and they have a very fun and digestible way for couples to talk through this very interesting thing that some of us work with. And so it's from the perspective of the husband and also from the wife and how that spouse supports him. And the funny thing is the spouse isn't just a spouse, she is his business partner. And so I'm sure there's other professionals out there listening now that probably have a neurospicy in their mix, and understanding how you support them and understanding where you can really count on them and what their strong suits are and what are the places that you probably have to make some sort of provisions is a really smart move. In fact, when we started Ink Tank and Chad Horn and I decided to partner, the first thing I did is I asked him to listen to their audiobook about ADHD and partnering with ADHD people. And I think it's been fantastic because Chad kind of knows that, I'm a real big picture guy. I can ideate really fast, but he is more of a detailed guy. So that marriage of the skill sets helps. And so things like those kind of podcasts, I think those are absolutely fantastic. For those of us that don't like a little bit of spoonful of sugar, I watch my news on the Daily Show. I watch my news on just funny things that help me digest it. This is an easier way for me to digest what can be a difficult subject, right? And they're cool. Right? They're great at media. They're great at content creation. So there's some fun tips in there, and I think they bring culture with them. And then my nerdy side, I like Neil Tyson deGrasse Star Talk. Just kind of geek out on some stuff. And then I think I'd be in trouble if I didn't say the following, which is I got to give a shout out to restaurant technology guys, Jeremy Julian. That's the first pod that my businesses were on, and he has a great platform for people. Got to give a nod to Mr. Justin Ulrich out there at Evocalize, because he not only does a good job for Evocalize, he brings along people with him, teaches them, kind of pays it forward, the stuff that was given to him. He definitely shares it with the world. So I'm a big fan of his as well. So kind of my bit.
Awesome.
I do have a question though. What does everybody use? Maybe this is off track, but like Sean, what do you use for your podcast? Like, is there a best practice set of tools that we should be thinking about, or is that too much off the reservation? We can talk in San Diego about that stuff.
It's probably a different conversation.
Okay.
The tool is you're using it right now, and it's a smartphone. It's the internet. You can go down the rabbit hole of best practices, and we've got some incredible people in here that have all experience publishing on multiple platforms. But it's audio. I mean, when you're talking podcast, it's audio.
Yep.
Now it's also video, and it's getting a distribution strategy. So
Yeah, I do a lot of, I watch a lot of the video though, and I'm more like some of the other folks on micro content. Some things that grab me for a minute, inform me, and I can move on. Or if it's interesting, I'll latch onto it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway just from the people that have shared already, and I can't wait to get to the rest of the people on stage, but just we all consume differently, like from our
Mhm.
TVs to our cars to our homes to our smartphones, how we consume it, where we consume it, how we discover it, how we
Yeah,
find
where we
out
seek it
about it.
out, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Holderness, I didn't even know they had a podcast,
Oh, they're
but
fantastic. Yeah,
but I watch their videos on Instagram. They're singing videos about Costco, and like they're a phenomenal family.
yeah.
But the fact that they're leaning into something that they care about that's helpful to you and your business, that's really cool. It's really cool to
Yeah.
hear. So
Thanks, guys.
awesome. Scott Turner.
Yeah, I have a really structured way I listen to podcasts. I always listen to it on the tube in. On the way in, I listen to football and sports. I catch up on what's going on, and on the way home, I listen to business or educational and stuff like that. Because first thing on the morning, I don't want to think too much, so that's why I listen to sports. So I think sticking to the educational stuff, I listen to one called the Uncensored CMO. I think Richard's talked about it on this platform before. He recommended it to me, but it gets all the best CMOs from around the world and talks about some of their marketing strategies and stuff like that. There's some really good ones. There was the founder of Mischief USA on there, and I'd encourage anyone in business to go and speak to him because they're doing something special, those guys. So Uncensored CMO is a big one. I listened to Stephen Bartlett, but I'm not like Eric. I can't deal with all the health stuff. So mine's more focused on some of the interesting bits. I think I love listening to Rory Sutherland on any podcast that he's on. He's into behavioral science, and he really has a really interesting way of looking at how businesses should do things differently. Again, it's just another great one for anyone in business to kind of get a different mindset and think outside the box. And then Chris Doe, I listened to. That was one of from the very first time we met, Sean. You talked to me about Chris Doe, and I've been listening to him ever since. He's really cool. And then the last one, from a business perspective, is one called Creator Playbooks. Now, some of his stuff's a bit crap, but there's other bits on there, and he focuses quite a bit on YouTube and strategies around growing on YouTube and stuff like that. And he has some really cool, like, young creators from YouTube on there, but he also has people like the marketing manager behind the Diary of the CEO. The other week he had the guy on who does all the thumbnails and the teaser videos for Diary of a CEO as well, and he was basically talking all the way through the process of how they work on those teasers to get as much optimization as possible. So anyone who's trying to push a YouTube channel at the minute should check that out because there's some really good episodes in there.
Yeah, I don't know if you shared that with me or somebody did, but that was brilliant how they
Yeah,
turn a podcast preview into like a movie trailer.
yeah, it's phenomenal. They think on the same wavelength. So yeah, it's a really cool episode for anyone who wants to push YouTube for sure.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Marissa, Cali, podcast.
Hello, everyone. My it's funny actually. You prompted me to go through my list of podcasts. I guess I've been following podcasts for years, and I see some ones that I haven't followed or listened to, or they haven't updated. So, one that I listened to a long time ago, or have been listening to for a long time, is called Business Anchors, and they're a marketing agency based out of the UK. So they have a lot of really, I admire them. I love their content. So I love their conversation, and they're really, really funny. Another one I listen to is the Daily Boost, motivation and coaching. So that does, it's like 10 to 12 minutes of daily boosted and motivation. He's really good. And I think as far as consumption goes, I am a Spotify premium user. I have been for about almost 10 years now, I think. So I listen to podcasts and I watch podcasts on Spotify when I am able to look at it. And they do have video. So I'm thrilled that they have the video option now. But I listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm driving, or like I'm doing another task in the house, like cleaning up or tidying up. And so I'm really invested in the ones that are not too long, that don't require like 100% focus, kind of just, reminders of what I'm doing. And then one that I recently followed is called Do This, Not That. It's marketing tips with Jay Schwendel. I don't know how to say his last name. Schwendelson. And he's like a email marketing guru, and they have really good virtual events, and love what they're doing. So those are my top, I guess, top three. Oh yeah, and the AI rundown, which gives me some insight into AI tools and how the world of AI is advancing faster than we can keep up with it.
Those are great recommendations. And once again, I wish Fathom was inside the room so that it could record and take notes. But good stuff, Marissa. Thank you. Dean LeBay, you got some podcast you would recommend?
Well, when I started listening to podcasts, everybody's been talking about the cars or walking or all that kind of good stuff. I started out listening when I was in the nursing home because I was bored to death and was about to, things were tough, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And the two podcasts I listened to was your podcast, and the other one was Jen Allen, which is Winning the Challenger Sales, and especially number 29, which talks about cost of inaction. And it kind of motivated me to connect with you and be part of this group. And man, I'm just so glad for this group. I really am. Thanks.
Well, we love you, Dean. We're proud of you. We're honored to have you in our group. Your voice makes us better, so thank you. Will Brawley on the stage. What's up, Will? My
What's up?
audio man, the man that was obsessed with audio that's now doing an incredible video.
Yeah. Can you all hear me okay?
We can hear you great.
Thank you for the opportunity. What a cool group. Sean, love your energy, love your creativity, love all that you're doing. I started listening to podcasts a really, really, really long time ago. And started a podcast called Restaurant Owners Uncorked about 12 years ago, when I would take a microphone that I bought at Best Buy for $35 and plug it into the USB port of my laptop and put my BlackBerry on speakerphone and record conversations and embed them into our blog at Schedulefly. So that's kind of where this started. So, I don't listen to the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, which is, what I've been doing since then. We've done close to 600 episodes, but I love doing it. And I think Troy's coming on at some point here. Sean, you've been on it, and any of y'all that would like to be on it, we'd love to share your story. So podcasts have been an interesting thing for me because I was laughing so hard earlier when y'all were talking about driveway content and things like that. Sean knows this. I have a flip phone. I've had it for 4 years now. Part of the reason I got this flip phone is because when I had an iPhone, I listened to so much podcast content that I would sit in the grocery store parking lot for 45 minutes before I went in to go pick up milk and things like that because I would get so consumed. I would listen to podcasts and get lost when I was driving around. And for that reason and for a lot of other reasons, I had to get rid of my iPhone and get this flip phone. What that's left me with is listening to podcasts on my laptop, which makes it a lot harder to listen. When I do something like I did the last couple of days and drive 9 hours to State College, Pennsylvania to see my daughter, I have to download episodes to my laptop and open it and sit it on the center console and play them on the speaker on my laptop while I'm driving, which is ridiculous. And you're all welcome to laugh at me for that. But that's been the trade-off of not having an iPhone. I do listen to Apple when I do that. Most of what I listen to is long form stuff like Hardcore History or Martyr Made or things like that. I just kind of get lost in 5-hour episodes about the 1921 Miners Rebellion in West Virginia. And I just love that stuff as sort of a history geek. But there's my probably weird but unique, but that's my podcast story.
I love it. Will, are you on your laptop right now on LinkedIn Live?
Sean, are you there?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Will, are you on your? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Will? No.
Isn't that great?
Sean, did you hear that he still had a killer ringtone though for that flip phone? I think he had Head Over Heels by Tears for Fears.
I think Will's laptop died. So.
Can you hear me?
Viewer?
Can you hear me now?
Viewer?
You know, he's operating how I did in college, Sean, and it's giving me flashbacks, like laptop on the dash.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you,
We got you,
Sean.
Sean.
Sean, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's not a good commercial for the iPhone, the new iPhone, because I don't have connected earbuds anymore. I'm trying to use earbuds. I'm using speakerphone. So I don't know. I'll figure out my audio before Greg Rempe from the Great Barbecue Central show gets on me. But thank you, Will, for the awesome story. Huge fan of you, Schedule Fly, the work that you do telling restaurant owner stories. So, and thank you for coming to the stage. Who is up? Mercedes, have you gone yet?
Not yet. I gotta go quick though, so
Go for it.
say my faves and then I gotta bounce. I love How I Built This. I don't know if you guys have listened to that one yet, but I love that show. I listened to who is it? It was a coffee one and how they built it. It was really cool. Dutch Bros. I listened to the Dutch Bros one, and that had me hooked forever. That was like one of my first podcasts I ever listened to. And then I love Masters of Scales, and I listened to Lando Lakes. I don't know if that was their CEO or who it was, but she did an interview with them, and that blew my mind. But I have to run, and it was a pleasure talking with you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Mercedes. Masters of Scale is awesome. Let's go around. Tip, takeaway, homework assignment. Thank you guys down below. Simon, Ash, Jeff, we appreciate it. James, thank you for recording. Gavin, tip, takeaway, homework assignment.
Yeah, I think on the, I think it's so interesting how everyone listens to different podcasts, how they're listening is so interesting. YouTube is the #1 podcast platform because it is the most discoverable. I think that's really cool. And shout out to Barry Katz. I think Michael Ongaro mentioned him. I used to work with Jay Moore, and Barry is awesome. So definitely want to check out his podcast.
Awesome. And my homework assignment is to get earbuds, actual wired earbuds for the new iPhone.
What's
Elizabeth.
wrong with wait? What's wrong
What?
with Apple Earbuds Plus, which Troy went through 20 sets of earbuds to finally find one that you wouldn't give me shit over? You've never said a word negative about
You were
my
just
new
cutting out,
earbuds
Troy.
since I got them because they're
When you
Apple
were
to Apple.
bragging, you were just cutting out. When you were bragging, you were just cutting out.
It's not me, for God's sakes.
Maliciously ironic.
There's something going on. Something going on with LinkedIn. Everybody.
Troy, you're gonna need to remain consistent for me to buy any earbud product that you're promoting. I love you, Troy, but I need a
Apple. Look, Apple products working on an Apple product probably work pretty good. Apple Earbuds Plus with your new Apple iPhone.
We'll see. Yet to be determined. I will give you guys data and feedback once I find something. Elizabeth, go for it.
Sorry, I was elsewhere. I have a quick question because I know we're talking about Fathom not working, etc. If we were to send a link to a favorite episode or to the show, which of these wonderful people on the stage would want that information sent to them? I send a link to a show or an episode, and maybe we could compile it.
That would be Mike.
Yeah. So I will go back and put on in the links all the different recommendations and suggestions, and then in the post we can all go in there and go back and find the one that we want to dive into. Absolutely.
So would it be helpful if we tapped on your face and messaged you a link?
That would be extremely helpful. I'm going, in the process, I listened back, I took notes, but it can't hurt. Absolutely, if you want to send it, that would make it a little easier for me. So absolutely to that, yes.
Awesome, thank you, Elizabeth. Go ahead, Mike. Tip, takeaway, homework assignment. And do you have next week's? What are we talking about next week?
Yeah, so I do have both. So for next week, we are going into tips and tricks for multitasking, and then my takeaway is I know sometimes people get scared to create their own content or podcast. They say, "Oh, there's 4 million out there. No one will hear mine." And I always just say, "Hey, but nobody's heard, nobody has yours. So nobody has your voice. So don't be scared to create your show and be intimidated by that because yours is unique automatically." So I'm just very passionate about that.
Awesome. And just a reminder, if anyone has ideas for topics that they would like this room to discuss or you would like to host, just send us a message. We started a LinkedIn group chat, so it's the Rising Tides group chat. That way we can post links to the rooms that are easier to discover. But if you want to host a room, you want a topic, let us know. Let Mike know. Thank you. Stover, go ahead. Tip, takeaway, homework assignment.
Hey, I think I used to really enjoy my podcast time, and I think part of it was being able to relax and listen to something without like all the intensity of watching or finding new stuff. And so having something in your ears while you're doing something relaxing, like driving or walking, sounds like I could do that. So I'm going to figure out how I can get some time to try out one of these shows.
Awesome. Thanks, Stover. Troy Hooper.
I would encourage everybody to go to YouTube and search Troy Hooper or the Pineapple Podcast. Push on a face you know or a face you don't know. I don't know. That's the best homework I can give is promote my shit, right? But you be mad.
No, I'm finally promoting your shit.
Yeah.
And I bought a book of one of the guests after.
Monica Rothgary.
Yep.
Former COO of KFC.
I can't read it at night because my brain gets far too activated and excited. So Lars looked over me and goes, "That's a daytime book."
That's funny. That's it. The Pineapple Perspective by Troy Hooper, sponsored by Pepper Lunch Restaurants on all platforms. Have a great one.
Awesome. Jason, give us your quick recommendations for podcasts.
So one that I've been very excited by is Acquired. And if anyone did, I don't speak up if somebody's already said this, it's incredible. It's these guys, Silicon Valley, they go very, very deep dive, 3 to 4 hour episodes. I'm listening to the Howard Schultz one right now. I think it's amazing. And I'm hearing a feedback. That's one I recommend with everyone. And Howard Schultz is great. Mark Zuckerberg. I listened to Mike Ovitz. And here's a funny quick thing. When I came to town years ago, my hero was Bernie Brillstein, fantastic producer and manager, did Jim Belushi to the Muppets to everything. He wrote a book called You're Nobody in Hollywood Unless Somebody Wants You Dead. Where Did I Go Right? And his biggest nemesis who wanted him dead was Mike Ovitz. So forever, Mike Ovitz was this enemy to me. Now I listen to Mike Ovitz, and he's this hero to me, which is or isn't, because he talked about packaging and putting things together. Sean, that's the recommendation for you that you have to listen to. He changed the entertainment industry. Here's the point. It's amazing. Don't let the truth get in the way of a perfectly good story. How somebody can drive the narrative to come out like a hero. Somebody else could drive the narrative to come out like a hero. These are two titans that were successful. I just think it's kind of amazing when you get to tell your story, how you can influence the crowd. And Troy just texted me that he said acquired, so I'll stop talking. Talk to you later.
Send me the link, Jason, to that episode, and I'll get it to Michael.
Mike Ovitz, because he will teach you how to think about packaging things. This is from 2020, but oh my gosh, the way he put brands together is amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. Michael Beck, tip, takeaway, homework assignment. Dean LeBay, tip, takeaway, homework assignment.
Homework assignment, we're better together, so let's try to increase our feed on the LinkedIn talking thing, but also people that come to this rooms on Wednesdays and Fridays. Thanks.
Thanks, Dean.
I'm
Michael,
back.
go for it.
Yeah, I just want to say Jason Berkowitz, lesson one is Jason Berkowitz can sell a podcast to anybody. That I'm excited about tuning into that. Two, I think that the takeaway here is that it goes back to what Mr. LeBay was saying about community, that every time I come back here, the lesson is there's more to find, there's more to dig in, there's people that want to share wealth of knowledge. I fucking love this place. So that's my lesson. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Michael. Thank you. Eric Farrell.
See you this week too.
I know. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. Digital hospitality in real life. IRL. Eric Farrell.
Like my grandpa always said, try to learn something new every day.
Love it. Thank you, Jeff, down below, Ash, Simon, James, anybody that's listening on the digital hospitality feed. We appreciate you. We would love to have you join us on LinkedIn Live. Hopefully we can fix some of these audio and start issues, but we will figure it out. We always have. Started on Clubhouse, now we're on LinkedIn. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we're grateful for you, however you consume them. If you need anything from anyone in this community, just reach out. We are all weirdly available. We care about you, and we'd love to meet up with you in real life. Thank you all. Gavin, Elizabeth, Mike, Stover, Troy, Jason, Michael, Dean, and Eric. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.